Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. We'll start with the Sri Namaṣṭakam by Srila Rupa Goswami. I'll say, please repeat. Nikila Shuti Mali Ratnamala Duti Nirajita Pada Pankajanta Aimukta Kuleru Pasyamanam Paritostvam Harinama Sankshayami. Someone please give Navina Prabhu the microphone. He'll read the English translations. That is, if he agrees to it. He agreed. Okay.
O Harinam, the tips of the toes of your lotus feet are constantly being worshipped by the glowing radiance emanating from the string of gems known as the Upanishads, the crown jewels of all the Vedas. You are eternally adored by liberated souls like Narada and Shukadev. O Harinam, I take complete shelter of you.
And now Davina will give just a little commentary on the first verse.
This morning when we were speaking about the glories of the holy name, we're speaking about Namaçṭakam Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukta, Abhinatvam Nama Namino, how the holy name is complete and everything is an emanation from the holy name. So it is a wonderful meditation how all the Vedic scriptures, including the Upanishads, are the glowing radiance. So it is all emanating from Krishna's holy name. All the Vedic wisdom is an expansion of the holy name. And Srila Prabhupada once mentioned that I've written these 80 books just to get you to chant Hare Krishna. So Krishna is being worshipped by the great sages and saints headed by Narad Muni and Shukadeva Goswami, who are the propounders of the Vedic philosophy. Thus, they are showing to us how chanting of Hare Krishna is the culmination, it is the quintessence of the Vedic wisdom. So if people want to say, we don't need books, we don't need philosophy, then we say, yes, if you're chanting Hare Krishna all day and all night, then that is true. For the rest of us, we are very much in need of the Vedic wisdom, which will gradually make us understand and appreciate Krishna's wonderful qualities and opulences. Another meditation is that the name is more merciful than the person, because Krishna is very difficult to achieve. He's quite aloof in a sense, because he's very extraordinary, he's very elevated, but he has made himself more accessible through his name. So these rays that are emanating in the form of Upanishads and other Vedic tenets, we can learn how to appreciate Krishna and his holy name by studying the Upanishads and by studying the Vedic literatures. So that is...
Thank you very much. That was beautiful. Shraddha.
So Maharaj, I just wanted to confirm if my understanding is right or not. So it says that you are eternally adored by liberated souls like Narad and Shukdev. So for Narad Muni, we see it's very visible that he has a veena and he's singing the glories and he sings the name. Then for Shukdev, do we understand that in the Bhagavatam he is glorifying through other incidences like Hare Namanukirtanam, Ante Narayan Smriti and things like that, or other verses like how Devahuti talks to Kapildev about Ahobat, that verse. Is that how we understand that he also eternally adores it?
That would definitely count. Yeah. Tadvag Visargo, he's constantly glorifying the holy name from the very beginning. When you go into the first canto, you find how he points out that this is the means of success, no matter what situation you're in. And the last verses in the Bhagavatam mention that Sankirtan is the means to attain the ultimate goal. So that's a good point. Thank you for bringing that out. Nice. O Harinam, the tips of the toes of your lotus feet are constantly being worshipped by the glowing radiance emanating from the string of gems known as the Upanishads, crown jewel of the Vedas. I was thinking also of the fact that this verse comes from the Kali Santarana Upanishad. Sarvavedishu drishyate. So the whole mantra is mentioned there. And that Sarvavedishu drishyate means that if you see through all the Vedas, it's actually pointing to the holy name as the essence of everything. Number 2. Jayanamadeya Muni Vrindagehe Janaranjanaya Paramakshaраkrite Tomanadarapi Managudiritam Nikilograta Papatalim Balumpasi. Navina.
O Harinama, all glories to you. Sung by all the sages, you are the supreme combination of syllables, and you bring transcendental bliss to everyone. If a person utters you but once, even disrespectfully, still you relieve his many extreme sufferings.
Commentary.
There are so many different combinations of syllables, and so many songs, so many mantras, but this is the supreme combination of syllables. The perfection of all the texts that are there in the Vedas is the holy name of Krishna. What is the proof of that? What is the proof of that? That it brings transcendental bliss to everyone. People have been chanting so many mantras and studying so many books, but they have not achieved the transcendental bliss. But simply by chanting Hare Krishna, people can achieve this transcendental bliss, which is the proof of the process. And people who even once come in touch with that name, whether they take it in jest or they even do so disrespectfully, still the name is so merciful that they become relieved of their extreme suffering. We were just recounting this morning how yesterday we had Harinam in Market and Powell and around Market Street, and a lot of people kind of in mocking or in imitation or in jest, they may get into accompanying or trying to imitate the devotees. But you can see that even while doing so, they receive some benefit. They feel blissful, they feel happy. And sometimes they're quite shocked at, what is it? Like what is it that's affecting me? They're a little intrigued, a little puzzled by that. And that memory stays with them.
Govinda Prabhu, please give some Shastric evidence to back up what Navina Prabhu just said.
The first sloka of Sri Namaṣṭakam says, Ananda Ambudhi Vardhanam Pratipadam Amrit Asvadanam. So Ananda Ambudhi Vardhanam, the ocean of bliss is constantly increasing, and Purna Amrit Asvadanam, they can taste the complete nectar. And then The last line of, if a person utters you but even once respectfully, still you relieve his many extreme sufferings. So this Bhagavatam slok, Sanketyam Parihasyam Va Stobham Helanam Eva Va Vaikuntha Nama Granan Ashisha Aga Haram Viduhu. So it says, it gives 4 conditions. Sanketyam, even indirectly, like what Ajamil did. He was calling out his son's name. Parihasyam Va, what Naveen Mirad Prabhu was talking about, in a joking manner. Stobham in a way of entertainment. So if they just like the music and they just chant it. And Helanam, even in a deriding manner, that's what he mentioned that as well. So even if one does it in these, any or all of these manners, the holy name will actually extinguish all the remaining sins of that person. Ashesha Aga Haram Viduhu Viduhu, it should be known like that.
Well done. And Mukaravinda Prabhu has something to add.
I was thinking about this transcendental bliss to everyone. So day before yesterday I took a Uber and then he happened to be a Farsi person, I think Muslim mostly maybe, and then I was sharing with him the holy name books and something, and then at last he started repeating. So I recorded his voice. I'll just play it. How this brings transcendental bliss. So it's like a proof.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Wow. And what that means?
Guys, I want to be a better person. Yeah, I want to be loved and love people.
But you are really such a nice person. I am so.
So now Uber is chanting Hare Krishna. All the Ubers, yes.
So I can see that how he was like first time, but that happiness that brought to him, I can see that is something that comes from spiritual world, that he was saying with so much happiness.
Yes, and you can see that when we hear from the devotees, Navina, Govinda, Mukaravinda, who are actually going out and meeting people and teaching them the holy name directly, they're having this, their faith becomes even stronger in the holy name because they're seeing it reflected back in the other people. And that's one of the main reasons that we go out to teach Krishna consciousness and teach the holy name to other people, is when we see the efficacy of the holy name in others, then our faith increases. Therefore you'll find that the Madhyama Adhikaris, those who are going out to teach Krishna consciousness to others, become stronger because they have that fortification and edification every single day when teaching the holy name. Govinda, you had another, and then Shraddha.
Another very encouraging incident that I personally saw, and Sudhir Madhav Prabhu is actually to be congratulated for preaching to one of his complex mates. He is a Muslim actually. His name is Fazle Al Imtihad. He is from India, Nagpur. He came to, so he talked to him about Harinam. He came to Harinam, and he's actually a very open-minded person. He says, I've been to Vaishno Devi, I've been to many darshans, and he's been to ISKCON temples before. He came to Janmashtami, and when he came to the Jhulan area, I recognized him, so I invited him for doing kirtan. So he sat, and he actually did kirtan for 5 minutes, took photo, video and everything. He was singing very enthusiastically. So it affects, everyone, irrespective of what the background is. And he was in bliss.
Thank you very much. Shraddha?
Maharaj, I was just admiring how that Uber driver now broadcasts the holy names to the whole world. Because this broadcast is being watched by
That's one of the benefits of technology, is that what previously we had said there's the Madanga and then the Brihat Madanga. One Madanga said Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, it's heard for a few blocks, and then the books are expanded kirtan because they go further, they penetrate more deeply. However, nowadays we also see that even in the Harinams, everyone's got their phones out and they're broadcasting the Facebook, posting to people all over the world. So that there's a good side and a bad side to the technology. One side is if you say bad things, they get broadcast, but the holy name also does too. So that's an upside. And wherever they go, the effect is there.
So Maharaj, I had a question.
Yeah.
So in the last sentence it says, if a person utters you but once even disrespectfully, then his many extreme sufferings are relieved. So how do we understand that in the light of the 10 offenses to the holy name, where we are supposed to be very cautious and not do so?
Yes, of course. If somebody is innocently saying the holy name without being aware that the holy name is taking away their sins, they're simply saying it because they're naive and they're motivated in one way or another to say it. The benefit is there. The fence becomes more prominent when you have the responsibility given to you through the context of knowledge. Once you become aware of the efficacy of the holy name and you begin chanting, then if you purposefully or because of neglect violate these tenets, then you become, then there's some detrimental effect. Yes, Akuranath Prabhu.
In the question and answer booth in the San Francisco Rath Yatra this year, somebody, he was from the Miami temple, and he asked the question, well, we see people chanting Hare Krishna, devotees in the temple chanting Hare Krishna, they're chanting, singing so much. He was Hispanic, so he was saying in kind of that kind of English, he was saying they're singing so much, and they're still suffering, and they're arguing with each other, and different things like that. So how, so it doesn't work. That was his challenge, that this chanting doesn't work. Not like you said. You said if I chant just once, I relieve from all my suffering. How do you explain that we're still suffering?
In the context of Ajamil, Ajamil is the classical case brought forward by Shukadeva Goswami, and that's a story that is well known to sadhus, that he received in a group, Sadhu Sangha, that he passed on to Parikshit Maharaj. And in the story of Ajamil, we see that Ajamil continued even to sin. Sin means suffering, because we suffer because of violating the natural laws. And therefore there's a reaction. Not only did he continue suffering, but he continued sinning even after he took the holy name. Because from the beginning, as he was saying Narayan and saying this name of his son, he was doing so innocently, but the effect of the holy name was there. So the question is answered in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, as it's an important question. Why is it that Ajamil, even after he had uttered Narayan, he went on suffering and committing sinful activities? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, but his sinning was different because it had no effect. And he compares it to a snake with no more teeth. Although it appears that the snake is biting again and again, he's no teeth, no fangs. And so the effect isn't there. And at the end, we see how Ajamil attained complete clarity because of the power of the holy name. What's more, the Vishnu Dutas came to rescue him and gave a complete explication of why they had the right to do so. And that all is of public record now. Anybody could read that and understand that by the utterance of the holy name, which is non-different from Krishna himself, as Sutta Goswami says in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, Apana samsrutim goran yanama vivishogranan tatasadyo vimucheta yabhibheti swayam bhayam. Anyone from any condition of life can take advantage of the holy name, and by uttering it, then all the inauspiciousness is dissipated. And aho bata swa pachito gariyan, etc., and yan nama deha shravananu kirtanad, etc. Those verses by Devahuti also prove the same thing. So now the question is, why don't you see the results in devotees? And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also answers that. And that is that the holy name appears in his own sweet time. Of course, we know from the Padma Purana, Nayamatma pravachanena labhyo na medaya na bahuna shutena yami vaisha vrinute tena labhyas tashaisha eva vrinute tanun swang. That Krishna reveals himself in his own sweet time when he decides it's time to reveal himself. It's not an automatic process. It's not a Coke machine. You put in how much ever now, $50 to get a Coke, and then the Coke comes out when you push the button. Krishna is a person. He reciprocates with each individual in his own way. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, it's like a tree. You have to wait till the fruit develops. The fruit will develop, the tree's already planted. And similarly, when you chant Hare Krishna, that seed is there and the process will go on. But it's a matter of time before the fruit appears. Now, why does some fruit appear before other fruit? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says sometimes Krishna delays the result for the devotees. And there are different reasons for that. Some he wants to intensify their taste, to see their desire. How much do they want it? And for others, he withholds the final result because he doesn't want to discourage the Gyanis and the Karmis. Because if he gives the ultimate result of chanting immediately, when people first start to chant, then the Gyanis will get all disappointed and think their path is no good. But because he's samaham sarvabhuteshu, he's equal to everyone. He gives every living entity independence to follow their own path. He also has to encourage them, or at least not discourage them, from pursuing their path. So those are the explanations given in the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, Prabhu.
I was just remembering one incident that happened like a few months ago. Someone came to I was a student in some university. He came to the table and when I was showing him the books, he told, I already have the chant and be happy, and I chant the mantra. And I asked this incident, where did you get it and all? Then he was saying that he was in a music class and someone had left the book there. And he was already very stressed out, looking at the title that, and there was George Harrison. So he read through the whole book that day, and he told I chanted that day for like 2-3 hours. And I could really feel that it was really calming to me. And then he told that whenever I drive along, whenever I'm driving, I chant the mantra all the time. So
that'll work. And also, you mentioned, you gave the context of the question, but we don't necessarily agree with the premise. I mean, he may have his own perspective that it works or it doesn't work for anybody. You look at all the devotees, I don't know who he's hanging out with or what his lifestyle is, but just because your friends aren't getting the result or the place you come from, you may see this or that, or you may just have a negative outlook on life, or you may not know what to look for. Those who are more advanced in any discipline are more aware of the symptoms of advancement. For a doctor, can see symptoms of improvement in a person's condition before others, or you can see they're getting worse. Whereas somebody who's a novice, they may be just guessing. They don't know. They may not have studied the science for enough. As far as we're concerned, being involved in, administering the mantra to numerous people, we see amazing results all the time because we're tracking people in more scientific way. We're watching and seeing how people, first of all, starts off with, I can't chant. Then it moves to, I can chant, run 1 round but not 4, and then it's 4 rounds but not 8, then it's 8 rounds, and then I can chant 16, and how did it happen? I don't even know. There's a development of taste, whether people know it or not. Everyone feels like I don't have taste, even as they continue chanting, because there's always more. It's an ocean. There's always more that you can attain. This is interesting, 8:12, and now the activity's starting in the universe. So we better move on to the next one. Things are starting to move. Okay, yes, Shraddha. See? It's a muhurta or something. We just switched over. 1 hour and 36 minutes. Okay.
So Maharaj, I wanted a little bit more clarity on what it means to take the shelter of the holy name. Because today in the morning I was just thinking about some Vaishnava aparadha I committed in the past. And I was thinking that, so how do I get over whatever I'll get from there? Like you can't do prayashchit. We have read about that. So ultimately, after thinking through various things that I could do, I just said, okay, I should take shelter of the holy name. But then now I'm thinking that you shouldn't be chanting names of the Lord with a motive.
The Shastra does not agree with you. You said you should not be chanting the holy, but is that what you said?
So I'm just wondering that should I be
Padma Purana, Nama Parada Yuktanam, Namam Yeva Harantyagam, Avishrani Prayuktani, Anamye Varta Karanicha. The Padma Purana says if you're an offender to the holy name, the remedy is to chant continuously, don't stop. You know, I was inspired when I remember when Vrindavan was here, our little Vrindavan, it's not so little anymore. You know, I'd look around the temple, I'd see him walking around with his bead bag. I always called him Babaji, because, you know, he'd have his bead bag on, and there's things going on, but he'd wander here and there. He's just like, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. I'm thinking, that's how you do it. I saw Maguna the other day, she got out of her car, she was chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. You continually chant, says the Shastra. Don't stop, don't divert your mind elsewhere. Keep the mantra going. And so these offenses can all be overcome by the power of the holy name. Even if one's chanting in Namaparadha, means that you're offensive, you're in the offensive stage of chanting. Haridas Thakur says in the Harinam Chintamani, as you continue chanting, and that means you go on continuously, don't stop, you're going to hit the Namabhasa stage, or even one name in Namabhas, you say. It has so much benefit for you that it will help you to move away from Namaparada. Of course, we hear from the Shastra, Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janaya Yashivayaragyam Jnanam Chayara Haitukam. By worshipping Krishna and doing devotional service, you get knowledge and detachment. There are a page-long list of the benefits, spiritual benefits, one gets from chanting in Namabhasa. And if you continuously chant, even if you're an aparadhi, and you don't stop, then you'll come to the stage of Namabhas. And the interesting point is that if you're offensive chanting, one of the main reactions is that you don't feel like chanting. That's the problem. So you have to somehow break out of that through sadhu sangha, or through cultivating Shastra. It very much helps to discuss verses like this, because then the mind becomes piqued and you go home and you think, oh, actually there is something in the holy name. Because your mind will lie to you and tell you there's nothing in it. There's something on CNN, but there's nothing in this chanting. So you have to become more aware that all my benefits come from chanting the holy name. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that in the offenses, the 10 offenses, there are 2 offenses that are particularly egregious. One is to blaspheme devotees who have dedicated their lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord, and the other is to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name. So in one, Krishna is extremely fond of his devotees, especially those that are spreading the holy name. He says so in the Bhagavad Gita. And if you bite the hand that feeds you, those who are giving you the holy name, and then you blaspheme them, or you become ill-disposed towards them, then this is something that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that you have to not just chant, but you'll also suffer some way in order to overcome it. Same with developing an entitlement mentality, and that is that I'm entitled to because I did devotional service in the past, because I'm part of a religious institution, whatever it's called, and you put in the label, it's up to you. Therefore, I can commit sinful activities, and I'll be absolved. Or you can just say, because I say Hare Krishna, I can do whatever I want. That, he says, also is so egregious that there's a way in which you have to also suffer for that in order to become purified. So either continually chant, or suffer and continually chant, but do continually chant. It's the way to overcome. And be repentant in whatever way that you're repentant. But the fact is that Krishna is extremely merciful and forgiving, and the holy name is even more so, as we see going along in these verses, that he's extending himself even to those who are the most fallen, and that Krishna is always observing the state of mind of the devotee. As we know from the verse, Sapada mulam bhajata priyasya taktanya bhavasya Hari Pareshaha Vikarmayat Shot Patitam Katanchit Tunoti Sarvam Hridi Sanivishta. And that is that because Krishna has entered within the heart of the devotee, of course he's within everyone's heart, but he's especially attentive to the devotee's sincerity. And if a person who's engaged sincerely in devotional service has some misstep, if that person simply goes on with the practice of devotional service sincerely and just don't look back, keep going and do your practice, then Krishna rectifies from within the heart. He makes everything whole again. Even in the most egregious kinds of transgressions, he's always there to help remedy the situation. You carry what you lack and preserve what you have. You just need to be sincere and go on with your service. Don't give up. Never stop. Does that help?
Yes, Maharaj, it does. Thank you. Another thing is when we use the term "take shelter of the holy name," and so if a one-line answer on what does it mean. For example, like you use an umbrella to take shelter from the rain. So I take shelter of the holy name for something like that. Is it?
Well, two things. One is that there's a surrender process, and if you look at the various aspects of the surrender process, which is accept things favorable, reject things unfavorable, consider that Krishna is my maintainer and that he's my protector, nobody else. Always remain meek and humble, and consider that everything I have, including myself, belongs to Krishna. These 6 ideas, attitudes constitute surrender. So when you approach the holy name, if you consider these 6 attitudes, for instance, I have no other protector but the holy name. In Vrindavan, when the forest fire starts, the devotees just start chanting like anything. And when the Trinavarta demon comes, everyone says, Krishna! That's it. So it's really to consider that there is no other remedy. And I quoted already, Apana samsritim goranya nama vivashogranan tata sadya vimucheta yabhibheti swayam bhayam. Early on in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami says, take shelter of the holy name even in fearful situations, because the fear personified is afraid of the holy name. So it's a very direct relationship that Krishna is my protector. And not only that, there's a way in which we consider in a surrendered state that there is no other place to go except to the holy name. When one sits down to chant japa, the reason I would jump back up again and start moving around or going to do other things is because I have an idea that there's something more important at the moment. But taking shelter means to have this clear understanding that there's nowhere else to go, because everything comes from the holy name. Why do I need to attend to many other things? And Prabhupada pointed this out again and again, that this is our main service, to complete your prescribed number of rounds. Why is that the main thing, or it's like, say, the only thing he actually asked us to do when we took vows? There are a few things he asked us not to do, but the main thing he said to do was to chant the holy name, because it's everything. And everything's contained within it. And this is a mood of surrender to the holy name, that, okay, I accept that everything comes from the holy name. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartite iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitha. A person who's actually surrendered is one who is considered very carefully, everything comes from Krishna. Where else would I go? He's the source of everything. And he's the Suridam Sarvabhutanam. He's the best friend. So why do I need to deal with my problems and look for assets anywhere else except for the holy name? Most succinctly put by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it says, Nam bina kichuna hikora choda bhavanamaji. There's nothing else to be had in the 14 worlds. And when we chant Hare Krishna, if we feel like that, then we'll be fully attentive. Because what other asset do you want besides the holy name? There is nothing else. So this is the mood of surrender and chanting the holy name of the Lord. How's everybody doing? You okay? Do you need more air? Could we have more air? Those who are air engineers know how to. I heard that the new Apple building, which costs billions of dollars, they don't have air conditioning. They use outside air. It's very similar to the new ISKCON Chennai temple. There are air ducts coming in from all over the buildings, and it keeps it very oxygenated. So we'd like to have one of those too. Okay, so in the next verse, I'll say, please repeat. Yada baso pyudyan kavalita bhava dvanta vibhavo drisham tatvandhanam apidishati bhakti pranainim janastasyo datam jagati bhagavan namatarane kriti te nirvaktum ka iha mahimanam prabhavati.
O Son of the Holy Name, even a dim glimmer of your splendor swallows the powerful darkness of materialistic life and gives those who are blind to the truth the vision to follow the path of pure devotional service. Who in this world, even if learned and pious, can fully describe your transcendental glory?
Karuna Prabhu, you give a commentary?
Materialistic life is dark. The transcendental realm is described as self-illuminated. There's no need of sun or moon or electric lights to see there. Everything is self-effulgent. It's all pure consciousness. But in the materialistic world, everything is taken to be unconscious, material, inert, and material energy itself is inert. And so the holy name is being described as a sun which illuminates everything, just like light shines and we can see. Or someone was saying the other day in Vyas Puja how in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the soul illuminates the body like the sun in the sky. Similarly, the holy name illuminates the universe with Krishna consciousness. And so we're basically blind. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya. In material life, in material conditioned souls, we're actually blind to the truth. We don't understand God or our relationship with God, or even that we're spirit souls. We identify with the material body. But by chanting the holy name, we acquire the vision to see things properly as they are, tatvenatas, and then we can actually practice devotional service and glorify Krishna correctly. But even if we're learned and pious, the holy name is so glorious that even like Lord Anantadev with his thousands of mouths can't actually describe all the glories of Krishna, and the holy name is Krishna. And so Rupa Goswami is saying here that the holy name is so glorious that nobody can fully, properly glorify it.
Thank you very much. Next verse. Yad Brahma Sakshat Kriti Nishchayapi Vidasham Ayati Vinana Bhogai Apaiti Namas Purarina Tate Prarabdha Karmeti Virauti Vedaha. Okay.
O holy name, the Vedas declare that meditation on the impersonal Brahman cannot bring freedom from karmic reactions. that they must be enjoyed or suffered, but that when you manifest in one's consciousness, all karma at once disappears.
Navina, commentary, please.
Karmani nirdahati kimta jubakti bhajan, that all the karmas, everything is ultimately being eradicated by the appearance of Krishna's holy name. And people who think themselves liberated, they will still fall down from their imagined position of liberation unless they take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, which are represented by the holy name. So Brahman seems very attractive and very effulgent, and people in all different traditions have some appreciation for Brahman. But the understanding that Brahman is simply an emanation of the Supreme Lord's effulgence is very rare. That is confidential knowledge. People get they get the buzz from the Brahman effulgence. They say, yes, stay spiritual, stay in the effulgence, stay in a light. But what is the source of that light? What is the actual cause of it? And therefore, they are continuously caught up in the material turmoil. But when Krishna, in the form of his holy name, appears, then the consciousness at once becomes purified and all karmas disappear. There's so many different karmas, from bija to phalonmukha to prarabdha, from the seed-like state to the fructified state to the state that it has already passed. And all these different karmas, they disappear. Now someone might ask you, well, doesn't that mean you start chanting Hare Krishna and everyone just drops dead? No, because Krishna is keeping his devotees here in this world, as you have mentioned, to spread the holy name and also to give example to others on how to lead a life in this world. Otherwise, if one would be at once liberated, then it would be pretty thin here in the temple room. And the reputation would also not be the greatest. So it is being gradually perceived, even though it happens at once, that the karma is eradicated. But as the fan has been pulled, still there is some seeming movements of the fan moving, but there is no new power or thrust put into it, so to speak.
Thank you very much. Next verse. Agadamana Yashodanandanao Nandasuno Kamala Nayana Gopi Chandra Vrindavanindra Pranata Karuna Krishna Ityaneka Swarupe Tvai Mamarati Ruchar Vardatam Namatheya Karuna Prabhu.
O holy name, you have many forms, such as Aghadamana, crusher of Akasura, Yashodanandana, darling child of Yashoda, Nandasuno, son of Nanda, Kamala Nayana, lotus-eyed one, Gopichandra, moon of the gopis, Vrindavanendra, king of Vrindavana, Pranata Karuna, he who is merciful to the surrendered souls, and Krishna, I pray that my love for you in your many forms may greatly increase.
Text number 6. Vacham vachakam ityudeti bhavato nama swarupa tvayam Purvasmat parameva hanta karunam chatrapi janimahe. Yastasmin vihita parabdi nivaha prani samantad bhaved. Asye nedam upasya supihi sadanandam buddhau mujjiti.
O holy name, you manifest two forms, the Supreme Person you designate and the sound vibration that designates. We know that the second form is more merciful than the first, because even if a person offends your first form in many ways, you plunge him into an ocean of transcendental bliss if he serves your second form with his voice.
7. Suditashita janarti rashaye. Suditashita janarti rashaye. Ramya chit ghana sukha swarupine. Nama gokula mohotsavayate. Krishna purna vapushe namo namaha.
O holy name, you destroy the many sufferings of those who take shelter of you. You are the very form of concentrated spiritual bliss, a festival of happiness for Gokula, and the perfect and complete form of Lord Krishna. Again and again I bow to you.
8. Narada vinoj jivana. Sudhormi nirasa madhuri pura. Tam Krishna nama kamam. Spuramera sanera sena sada.
O enlivener of Narada's Veena, O flood of the waves of sweet nectar, O holy name of Lord Krishna, please forever manifest on my tongue with all your nectarian sweetness.
Shri Namaṣṭakam ki jai. Shri Rupa Goswami ki jai. Gaur Premanande Haribol. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Miditam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I'm going to read an offering from the Sri Vyas Puja book by His Holiness Keshava Bharti Das Goswami. This is entitled, Letting Srila Prabhupada Speak for Himself, Part 2. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. My dearest Srila Prabhupada, please accept my prostrated obeisances in the dust of your lotus feet. All glories to you and your spiritually refreshing transcendental books, which are sowing seeds of pure devotion, bhakti, in the hearts of conditioned souls throughout a world suffering from the pangs of humanity's degraded moral and spiritual values. Your books also nourish those seeds in the hearts of sincere souls who read them, especially those who drink the nectarian sound of your writings through their ears. Srila Prabhupada, your purports repeatedly remind us of the marvelous effects of hearing about the absolute truth. Quote, simply by receiving the glories of the Lord through purified transcendental ears, the devotees of the Lord are immediately freed from strong material desires and entanglement in fruitive activities. From Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th Canto. Quote, a person trying to be perfectly Krishna conscious by hearing the words of Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita certainly has all the dirty things cleansed from the core of his heart. from Bhagavatam 9th Canto. Quote, a devotee who constantly engages in hearing and chanting, Shravana Kirtana, is certainly freed from the disease of envy, and thus he becomes eligible to go back home, back to Godhead, from Srimad Bhagavatam 9th Canto. Continuing, Srila Prabhupada, my offering this year is a sequel to last year's, which was written in Dallas as I was convalescing from an undiagnosed fever. As I mentioned in that offering, I felt so weakened from that fever that I took a break from writing to do my daily reading of your books. In that reading, you warned me that one should be very careful of relapse from fever if one is still in the convalescent stage. Having no idea at that time how serious the fever was, I must not have been careful enough, because 3 days after submitting my offering, I had a relapse that became a fever so extreme that it nearly took my life. In fact, after I was moved to Houston from Dallas, Dr. Guru Bhakti later called a doctor in the UK and found out that the fever had been diagnosed as typhoid 2 weeks after I had been released from the hospital there and had flown to Dallas. Just after I arrived in Houston, my health deteriorated to its lowest ebb. The first blood test showed very little water in my blood. How that manifested itself physically and mentally was that my senses could not connect very well to the environment around me, and I became so weak that I could barely function. But by your grace, Srila Prabhupada, from years of practice, I had developed the habit of reading your books out loud every day. Thus I was able to continue to chant my rounds and read for at least an hour out loud every day throughout that dangerous ordeal. No one's cutting down our trees, are they? I wonder what that buzzing is. One evening, during the peak of my health crisis, as I was preparing to read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Lila, I suddenly felt that I possessed nothing in this world. This consciousness was forced on me by my physical condition. It was not a result of spiritual contemplation or qualification on my part. Nonetheless, the effect was there. And as I started to read out loud as best I could, the quality of the sound was different than usual. The words were the same, but somehow what I heard was more than I'd ever heard before. Suddenly I was understanding more than I had ever understood before. And the taste of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes was sweeter than ever before. Then, to my amazement, all at once my misery disappeared. I was no longer suffering. I had been writing year after year about how important it is to read your books every day, especially out loud. I had also been stressing the number of pages to read that would allow one to finish the entire Srimad Bhagavatam in just 1 year, to get a continuity on the subject. But I had never paid enough attention to the quality of hearing and how important it is. Srila Prabhupada, the effect of submissively hearing the Supreme Lord's pastimes is confirmed throughout Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. For example, quote, the author requests every reader to hear these talks with faith and without argument. By studying them in this way, one will be able to understand the confidential truth. From the Sri Chaitanya from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Anyone who desires to cross over the ocean of nescience, please hear with great faith the life and characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Another quote, just try to hear these topics with faith, for there is great pleasure even in hearing them. That hearing will destroy all miseries pertaining to the body, mind, and other living entities, and the unhappiness of false arguments as well. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is ever increasingly fresh. For one who hears it again and again, the heart and ear become pacified. That was from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya Lila. Continuing, I was forced by circumstances to hear submissively, Srila Prabhupada. I can't honestly say that I was able to maintain the degree of freedom from misery I experienced that night. But the incident did greatly increase my already strong faith in hearing your books. Thus my sense of mission to help revive the taste for hearing your books in devotees, who for whatever reason have stopped reading them, has increased exponentially. And my faith in reading them to newcomers as the best way to give them a taste of Krishna consciousness has become fixed. Toward the end of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Goswami goes on to say, quote, I now worship the lotus feet of all my readers, for by the mercy of their lotus feet there is good fortune. If one hears the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, I wash his lotus feet and drink the water. I decorate my head with the dust of the lotus feet of my audience. Now you have all drunk this nectar, and therefore my labor is successful. From the Antya-lila. Continuing, therefore the readers of your books also become deserving of worship. The active principle that underlies hearing with proper consciousness, with complete faith, without argument, in rapt attention, is the blessing of an eternal associate of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada, you are the eternal associate of the Lord, who made it possible for the world to taste real relief from the sufferings of the degraded age of Kali, and to feel true happiness by reading your books, especially out loud. Dear Srila Prabhupada, my heart overflows with gratitude to you. I have no love or pure faith, but by force of circumstances and by your blessings and training, I was able to hear in an especially helpless condition, without the ability to think of anything except what I was hearing, without the capacity to mentally argue, doubt, or embellish. This was the silver lining in the dark cloud of a life-threatening disease. You taught us that we are all helpless in this material world. The difficulties and suffering we face are all Krishna's mercy, meant to help us hear his holy names and pastimes with a feeling of complete helplessness. Whatever our social position, whatever our level of realization, whatever our service, however busy we may be, we must all find time every day to hear the teachings and pastimes of Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. After this near-death experience of mine increased my conviction that if we systematically hear from cover to cover the main books you gave us again and again for the rest of our lives, along with following the regulative principles strictly, chanting daily at least 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra while trying to avoid offenses, and distributing these jewels of wisdom to others less fortunate than ourselves, we will gradually become eligible to enter the pastimes of the Lord. Your translations and purports are transcendental, Srila Prabhupada. Hearing them sincerely is as good as hearing the original Sanskrit. There is no other explanation for how Krishna consciousness has spread across the globe in these degrading times. As you repeatedly tell us, quote, it is not that because one has once finished the Bhagavad Gita, he should not hear it again. The word abhikshnam is very important. We should hear again and again. There's no question of stopping. Even if one has read these topics many times, he should go on reading again and again. Bhagavad Gita. The words spoken by Krishna and spoken by Krishna devotees about Krishna are amritam, nectar. The more one drinks this amritam, the more he advances in his eternal life. Quote from Srimad Bhagavatam Purport, 7th Canto. Continued quote, in the Shastras, the Puranas, and the other Vedic literatures, there are so many narrations describing the transcendental activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and everyone should hear them again and again. Even if we read, for example, even if we read the entire Bhagavad Gita every day, all 18 chapters, in each reading we shall find new explanation. That is the nature of transcendental literature. That's from a Srimad Bhagavatam Purport in the 7th Canto. Keshav Bharti Maharaj interjects, and what will happen if we stop hearing and studying your books? The following two are quotes from Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. First, during the rainy season, the roads not being cleansed became covered with the grass and debris that were thus difficult to make out. Starting over. During the rainy season, the roads not being cleansed became covered with grass and debris and were thus difficult to make out. These roads were like religious scriptures that brahmanas no longer study, and that thus become corrupted and covered over with the passage of time. Second quote, all the devotees connected with the Krishna consciousness movement must read all the books that have been translated, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and others. Otherwise, after some time, they will simply eat, sleep, and fall down from their position. Thus, they will miss the opportunity to attain an eternal blissful life of transcendental pleasure. From the Madhya Lila. Srila Prabhupada, in the following excerpt from a lecture on Srimad Bhagavatam, you elaborate on how intensely you want your followers to read your books out loud. Following is a quote from a lecture. Vidura particularly came to enlighten Dhritarashtra and give him a lift to the higher status of spiritual cognition. It is the duty of the enlightened souls to deliver the fallen ones, and Vidura came for that reason. But talks of spiritual enlightenment are so refreshing that while instructing Dhritarashtra, Vidura attracted the attention of all the members of the family, and all of them took pleasure in hearing him patiently. This is the way of spiritual realization. The message should be heard attentively, and if spoken by a realized soul, it will act on the dormant heart of the conditioned soul. And by continuously hearing, one can attain the perfect stage of self-realization. Therefore, Shravanam is very essential. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada, Sevanam. So in all our centers, this process should be followed. We have got now so many books, simply if we read books. Our Yogeshwara Prabhu is very enthusiastic to read books, so everyone should read books, and others should hear. That is very essential, Shravanam. The more you hear, we've got so many books, whatever is already published, just like we are describing one verse daily. So at least there are so many verses already in stock. You can go on speaking for 50 years. These books already published, you can go on. There will be no want of stock. So this practice should be adopted. Don't waste time. You can go on speaking for, don't waste, excuse me. So this practice should be adopted. Don't waste time. As much as possible, try to hear about this transcendental subject matter, Bhagavatam. Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam. It is stated that the Srimad Bhagavatam is very, very dear to the Vaishnavas, to the devotees. In Vrindavan, you will find they are always reading Srimad Bhagavatam. That is their life and soul. So now we have got already 6 volumes. And further, how many? 8 volumes are coming? So you will have enough stock. You should read Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. That is the main business. That is pure devotional service. Because we cannot devote 24 hours in hearing and chanting. Therefore, we have extended our activities, program activities, in so many ways. Otherwise, Srimad Bhagavatam is so nice. If you practice anywhere, any condition, simply by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, you will be happy. So adopt this practice and make your spiritual life perfect more and more. Thank you very much. Lecture on Srimad Bhagavatam, 1:13, 12-14, Geneva, 3rd June, 1974. Keshav Bharati Maharaj continues. In your 1975 visit to Perth, Srila Prabhupada, a situation arose that compelled you to correct your devotees' thinking. Kurma Prabhu described what happened next in his book, The Great Transcendental Adventure. Prabhupada's chastisement went on for some minutes more. Then he suggested that someone bring a book and begin reading. As the devotees read aloud, they felt their ignorance dissipate. It was as if a heavy curtain was being lifted. Prabhupada, the transcendental physician, had once again supplied the medicine, hearing and chanting about the glories of Lord Sri Krishna to wipe out the disease of ignorance. The afternoon thus ended on a pleasant note with an inspiring question and answer session before Prabhupada spoke to his scheduled guest, a young Indian boy. In your purport to the verses in which Prahlad Maharaj describes the 9 processes of devotional service, you analyze each one individually. In the first paragraph of the section explaining the process of hearing, you write, Shravanam, Hearing the holy name of the Lord, Shravanam, is the beginning of devotional service. Although any one of the 9 processes is sufficient, in chronological order, the hearing of the holy name of the Lord is the beginning. Indeed, it is essential. And in the second paragraph of that same section you write, hearing from the text of Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the most important process of hearing. Srimad Bhagavatam is full of transcendental chanting of the holy name, and therefore the chanting and hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam are transcendentally full of mellows. In Srimad Bhagavatam, great devotees like Shukadeva Goswami have specifically described Lord Krishna's holy name, form, and qualities. Unless one hears about the holy name, form, and qualities of the Lord, one cannot clearly understand the other processes of devotional service. In another purport you state, hearing about the activities of Krishna is the beginning of purified life, punya shravana kirtana, and simply by hearing and chanting one becomes purified. Therefore, in discharging devotional service, shravana, kirtana, hearing, chanting is most important. Then with purified senses, one begins to render service to the Lord. Hrishikena, Hrishikesha, Sevanam Bhakti Richate. This is called bhakti. That was from the 10th canto, 6th chapter. In this way, Srila Prabhupada, on practically every page of your Bhaktivedanta purports, you enlighten us about the importance of hearing your books along with the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. You insist that they are both kirtan. They are equally important, essential, in fact. And you also confirm this same truth in discussions with your disciples. For example, Srila Prabhupada, both of them are kirtan. When you chant, that is also kirtan. When you distribute book, that is also kirtan. When you read book, that is also kirtan. From Morning Walk. In researching this subject, I came across the following statement of yours in a letter. Along with the restaurants, there can be Bhaktivedanta reading room, where all my books can be kept and people can come and sit comfortably and read. The people will like these restaurants and reading rooms. They will take them as non-sectarian. Letter to Shubha Bilash. Srila Prabhupada, please forgive me if this suggestion seems impertinent. Recently, the leaders of your movement have recognized the importance of reviving the reading of your books, for so many devotees have fallen away from reading them, and it placed you clearly in the center of the movement again as its founder Acharya by placing your books in the center once again. A revival has begun, and many ideas are being put forward. When I read your words, Bhaktivedanta Reading Room, I had a related idea. When I read your words, Bhaktivedanta Reading Room, I had a related idea. Bhaktivedanta Reading Groups. I seek your blessings to establish as many such reading groups as I can, and to inspire ISKCON leaders to do the same. I can think of no more efficient way to put you solidly in the center of your movement. From devotees who have set up such reading groups and sustained them over the past year, I've heard that their spiritual lives have changed for the better by reading your books out loud together. To help propagate this revival, I've made a vow to live stream my daily reading of your books. On the Facebook app, if one searches for daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books and likes the page, one can hear your books either live or at one's convenience. Now I'm reading the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. But when I finish the Bhagavatam, I'll move on to the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and read it aloud cover to cover. Then the Bhagavad Gita as it is, cover to cover. Then back to the Srimad Bhagavatam, and so on for the rest of my life. I seek your blessings, Srila Prabhupada, to complete this vow. Srila Prabhupada, in 2015, I wrote this to you in my Vyasa Puja offering. I want to live in the Bhagavatam, to make the Bhagavatam and your other books my home, and to bring others into this transcendental abode. As Srila Sanatana Goswami prays, Asadu sadhuta dhayin ati nicho chadakara hana muncha kadachin mam premnahrit kantayo spura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. From the Shri Krishna Lila Stava. We have one? Is it in the... I just want to point that out, that that book, Krishna Lila Stava, that was so widely distributed, that you may have overlooked, has this particular prayer in it by Sanatana Goswami that you should read every day. Finishing. I am completely unqualified to fulfill this desire of mine, Srila Prabhupada. Thus, it will be possible only by your causeless mercy. On this auspicious day of the anniversary of your appearance, September 4th, 2018, let me express my unending indebtedness to you for giving me a taste for reading out loud your sublime books and sharing that taste with others. Your eternal servant, Keshava Bharti Das Goswami. Navina, you liked it? Kanka? Jagarini? Okay. So, we're approaching Sri Radhashtami, and when we are coming to holy days, it's important to hear about. So look at this. Look at this beautiful book. In fact, this is one of the most beautifully put together books. This is the work of Brahma Muhurta Prabhu. He's a book publisher extraordinaire who lives in Korsnäsgård, Sweden. He's a very dedicated devotee to the BBT for many, many years. But he's also an expert. He knows everything about paper, about binding, printing, and is dedicated to printing Prabhupada's books. But if you've ever looked at this book carefully, sometimes we could take books for granted because, book's a book, right? Not really. Even the physical appearance of the book, there's much that's taken into account. I found that out when I was printing my book. I did it through Brahma Muhurta in Sweden. And it was harder doing that part of it than actually writing the book. And I've already bemoaned the fact that it was very difficult writing the book, so you know how hard that part must have been. The shape, the size, the kinds of paper, the colors that are involved, the design, everything. There are multiple facets of book to go into account, and how well it holds together. This is a gem of a book, just as an example of masterful printing, and how it feels in your hand, the very shape of it and so forth. The quality of the paper, the font is taken into account. The kind of font that I used in my book on Brahma's suggestion is called truth font. There's been some suggestion that through studies, people who read that font believe what they read. So I needed all the help I could get. So this particular book is a summation of all of by Srila Sanatana Goswami of Lord Krishna's pastimes. And at the end of this book, everyone has one of these, don't they? Because we distributed the mass quantity to all the devotees. They came out as gifts in many ways. Yes, Kanka? Kanka didn't get a book. Somebody better give Kanka. I'd like to give Kanka a book. Do we have another book? I'm not taking someone else's here. Personally, please. So you'll find on page 296 of this Krishna Lila Stava, the Srimad Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram. And these are the few short verses that Srila Sanatana Goswami wrote, glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam. And I highly recommend you introduce this into your practice. Say these verses before you begin to read your Srimad Bhagavatam every day, which you are all doing. Say yes. Thank you. And if you weren't before, after you heard Keshava Bharti Maharaj's offering, you will now. Sarva Shastradhi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhantarat Nadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kali Dvanto Titaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all of the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varsha Sharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namo Namaste Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Mad eka bandhu mat sangin, mad guru man mahadhana, man nishtaraka mad bhagya, mad ananda namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu saduta dayin ati nicho chadakara hana muncha kadachin mam premna hrit katayo spura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. So these several verses appear in this beautiful book, the Sri Krishna Lila Stava. So I noticed Naveen is still here, so I did a book before he did. Not that I could ever catch up, but one can always hope. Also, I mentioned that the Srimad Bhagavatam, we're counting down the days. How many days? Until the 24th. There's 16 days until the appearance of the Bhadra Purnima. On this day, the Purnima, in this month, when one gives away a set of Srimad Bhagavatams on a golden throne, one gets the great gift of attaining this supreme destination. That means going back home, back to Godhead. So we recommend that you think of people that don't have a set of Srimad Bhagavatam, or that do, that need another one, or a library, or some place, but take advantage of this fact that by giving away a set of Srimad Bhagavatams on this day, that the benediction is there in the Shastra, that you go home back to Godhead. The verse is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, 13th chapter, 13th verse. And I'll just read it to you. Translation is, if on the full moon day of the month of Bhadra, one places Srimad Bhagavatam on a golden throne and gives it as a gift, he will attain the supreme transcendental destination. So this is mentioned also in Prabhupada's commentary in the first canto, that this great book, also Matsya Purana, says that if you give away this book on the Bhadra Purnima day, the full moon day, you'll go back home, back to Godhead. So take advantage of this and give away the Srimad Bhagavatam. By some miracle, by Prabhupada's mercy, actually, it's available. Otherwise, and this was his idea also, to bring the Bhagavatam to the world. And he not only painstakingly translated and commentated on the Bhagavatam, made it available, he also asked his disciples to continue the translation and commentary, which they did. And we have the full 12 cantos. And not only do we have the full 12 cantos in English, but we have them in numerous other languages as well, which is even a bigger miracle, because it's so difficult to translate into other languages. So whatever a part of the world you're thinking of, or if you can think of some noteworthy person who should have a full set of Srimad Bhagavatams, this is the time. And the $250 that it costs, or $300 with the throne, that it costs to donate this to somebody, is $300 that I guarantee you're going to lose somehow anyway. Somebody will take it from you if you don't give it away. It'll be gone. You'll be obligated, and you'll go, I should have gave it on the Bhadra Purnima instead, because then you don't get any credit. But you get full credit, so much credit that it's unbelievable. You go back home, back to Godhead. So anybody who's listening in, you can contact us through our website. We'll arrange for you to get a set of Bhagavatams or more. And, there's no limitation. You can donate 2. You can donate 200. And if you don't know who to give them to, we have good ideas. So if you donate and designate that you want your name read on Bhadra Purnima as the donator of a set of Srimad Bhagavatams, send us the money and we will do it for you, because that's what we do here at ISV. All our activities are concentrated here at ISV on distributing Krishna conscious literatures. I stole that line out of Prabhupada's purport. That's what he says in his Srimad Bhagavatam purport, is the purpose of ISKCON. Yes, Akaruna Prabhu.
I noticed on Janmashtami that you had a nice golden throne. Is that the same one?
Could you stand up and show us the throne? What Avantika is showing us on the showroom floor is our beautiful golden throne. You can show it from all sides. Go like this. There. We should send her around as our spokesperson for. Yeah, that's it. That's the golden throne.
And how much is the golden throne?
50. So normally this full set is 250. When with the throne, it's 300 total. And if you don't do it with the golden throne, that's okay too, because Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the golden throne can be taken metaphorically as the sun. The throne is very nice gift to go along with it. It kind of completes the whole concept. So, highly recommend it. So now we're reading from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Is everyone okay now? Any comments or questions before we move to the next point? Okay, so Sri Radhashtami is coming soon. And to that end, I want to read something from, or begin reading from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter number 4. I'm on text number 1. And here it is said, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even a foolish child can fully describe the real nature of Lord Krishna, the enjoyer of the pastimes of Raja, according to the vision of the revealed scriptures. Purport: one can ascertain the meaning of this Sanskrit shloka only when one is endowed with the causeless mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Sri Krishna, being the absolute personality of Godhead, cannot be exposed to the mundane instruments of vision. He reserves the right not to be exposed by the intellectual feats of non-devotees. Notwithstanding this truth, even a small child can easily understand Lord Sri Krishna and his transcendental pastimes in the land of Vrindavan by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 2. All glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Sri Advaita Acharya, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. I have described the meaning of the 4th verse. Now, O devotees, kindly hear the explanation of the 5th verse. Just to explain the original verse, I shall first suggest its meaning. I have given the essential meaning of the 4th verse. This incarnation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, descends to propagate the chanting of the holy name and spread love of God. Although it is true, this is but the external reason for the Lord's incarnation. Please hear one other reason, the confidential reason for the Lord's appearance. Purport: in the 3rd chapter, 4th verse, it has been clearly said that Lord Chaitanya appeared in order to distribute love of Krishna and the chanting of his transcendental holy name, Hare Krishna. That was the secondary purpose of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. The real reason is different, as we shall see in this chapter. Everyone okay? You're not distracted by the fact that it's not on there? And by the way, it's not always absolutely necessary to follow the text with your eyes. You can also just listen. When we're reading in Govardhan, some devotees look at an iPad or a book and read along, and other devotees just sit and very carefully listen. The effect of listening very carefully will be, you'll notice, whether you're looking at the screen or not, but whatever helps you the most. But I'm just saying, if it's not there, don't freak out. Text number 7. The scriptures proclaim that Lord Krishna previously descended to take away the burden of the earth. To take away this burden, however, is not the work of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The maintainer, Lord Vishnu, is the one who protects the universe. 9. But the time to lift the burden of the world mixed with the time for Lord Krishna's incarnation. Purport. We have information from the Bhagavad Gita that the Lord appears at particular intervals to adjust a time-worn spiritual culture. Lord Sri Krishna appeared at the end of Dwapara Yuga to regenerate the spiritual culture of human society and also to manifest his transcendental pastimes. Vishnu is the authorized Lord who maintains the created cosmos, and he is also the principal deity who makes adjustments when there is improper administration in the cosmic creation. But Sri Krishna, being the primeval Lord, appears not in order to make such administrative adjustments, but only to exhibit his transcendental pastimes and thus attract the fallen souls back home, back to Godhead. However, the time for administrative rectification and the time for Lord Sri Krishna's appearance coincided at the end of the last Dwapara Yuga. Therefore, when Sri Krishna appeared, Vishnu, the Lord of maintenance, merged with him, because all the plenary portions and parts of the Absolute Personality of Godhead merged with him during his appearance. 10. When the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead descends, all other incarnations of the Lord meet together within him. Lord Narayan, the four principal primary expansions, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, Matsya and the other Leela incarnations, the Yuga avatars, the Manvantar incarnations, and as many other incarnations as there are, all descend in the body of Lord Krishna. In this way, the complete Supreme Godhead, Lord Krishna himself, appears. At that time, therefore, Lord Vishnu is present in the body of Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna kills the demons through him. Thus, the killing of the demons is but secondary work. I shall now speak of the main reason for the Lord's incarnation. The Lord's desire to appear was born from two reasons. The Lord wanted to taste the sweet essence of the mellows of love of God, and he wanted to propagate devotional service in the world on the platform of spontaneous attraction. Thus he is known as supremely jubilant and as the most merciful of all. Purport. During the period of Lord Krishna's appearance, the killing of asuras or non-believers such as Kamsa and Jarasandha was done by Vishnu, who is within the person of Sri Krishna. Such apparent killing of Lord Sri Krishna, such apparent killing by Lord Sri Krishna took place as a matter of course and was an incidental activity for him. But the real purpose of Lord Krishna's appearance was to stage a dramatic performance of his transcendental pastimes at Vrajabhumi, thus exhibiting the highest limit of transcendental mellow in the exchanges of reciprocal love between the living entity and the Supreme Lord. That's a very key statement, which gives an essential understanding of who Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is and Lord Krishna and why he appears. I'll read it again. But the real purpose of Lord Krishna's appearance was to stage a dramatic performance of his transcendental pastimes at Vrajabhumi, thus exhibiting the highest limit of transcendental mellow in the exchanges of reciprocal love between the living entity and the Supreme Lord. These reciprocal exchanges of mellows are called Raga Bhakti, or devotional service to the Lord in transcendental rapture. Lord Sri Krishna wants to make known to all the conditioned souls that he is more attracted by Raga Bhakti than Vidhi Bhakti, or devotional service under scheduled regulations. It is said in the Vedas, Taittiriya Upanishad 2.7, Rasa Vaisaha, the Absolute Truth is the reservoir for all kinds of reciprocal exchanges of loving sentiments. He is also causelessly merciful and he wants to bestow upon us this privilege of raga bhakti. Thus he appeared by his own internal energy. He was not forced to appear by any extraneous force. 17. Lord Krishna thought, all the universe is filled with the conception of my majesty, but love weakened by that sense of majesty does not satisfy me. If one regards me as the Supreme Lord and himself as subordinate, I do not become subservient to his love, nor can it control me. In whatever transcendental mellow my devotee worships me, I reciprocate with him. That is my natural behavior. Purport. The Lord, by his inherent nature, reveals himself before his devotees according to their inherent devotional service. The Vrindavan pastimes demonstrated that although generally people worship God with reverence, the Lord is more pleased when a devotee thinks of him as his pet son, personal friend, or most dear fiancé, and renders service unto him with such natural affection. The Lord becomes a subordinate object of love in such transcendental relationships. Such pure love of Godhead is unadulterated by any tinge of superfluous, non-devotional desires and is not mixed with any sort of fruit of action or empiric philosophical speculation. It is pure and natural love of Godhead, spontaneously aroused in the absolute stage. This devotional service is executed in a favorable atmosphere, freed from material affection. Would this be a good topic for the corporate? We were just talking on the way over because we're doing a lot of corporate programs. Some places are a little more open-minded than others about the kind of topics that we can present in certain venues. So I was just joking with Mukharvind that this might be a good one for one of the more conservative places. In whatever way my devotees surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. Purport. In the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna affirms that formerly, some 120 million years before the Battle of Kurukshetra, he explained the mystic philosophy of Gita to the sun god. The message was received through the chain of disciplic succession, but in course of time, the chain being broken somehow or other, Lord Sri Krishna appeared again and taught Arjuna the truths of the Bhagavad Gita. At that time, the Lord spoke this verse, Bhagavad Gita 4:11, to his friend Arjuna. Text 21:22. If one cherishes pure loving devotion to me, thinking of me as his son, his friend, or his beloved, regarding himself as great and considering me his equal or inferior, I become subordinate to him. Purport. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, 3 kinds of devotional service are described, namely bhakti, ordinary devotional service, shuddha bhakti, pure devotional service, and vidha bhakti, mixed devotional service. When devotional service is executed with some material purpose involving fruitive activities, mental speculations, or mystic yoga, it is called mixed or adulterated devotional service. Besides bhakti yoga, the Bhagavad Gita also describes karma yoga, jnana yoga, and dhyana yoga. Yoga means linking with the Supreme Lord, which is possible only through devotion. Fruitive activities ending in devotional service, philosophical speculation ending in devotional service, and the practice of mysticism ending in devotional service are known respectively as karma yoga, jnana yoga, or dhyana yoga. But such devotional service is adulterated by 3 kinds of material activities. For those grossly engaged in identifying the body as the self, pious activity or karma yoga is recommended. For those who identify the mind with the self, philosophical speculation or jnana yoga is recommended. But devotees standing on the spiritual platform have no need of such material conceptions of adulterated devotion. Adulterated devotional service does not directly aim for love of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, service performed strictly in conformity with the revealed scriptures is better than such vidha bhakti because it is free from all kinds of material contamination. It is executed in Krishna consciousness solely to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are spontaneously devoted to the Lord and have no aims for material gain are called attracted devotees. They are spontaneously attracted to the service of the Lord and they follow in the footsteps of the self-realized souls. Their pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti, manifested from pure love of Godhead, surpasses the regulative principles of the authoritative scriptures. Sometimes loving ecstasy transcends regulative principles. Such ecstasy, however, is completely on the spiritual platform and cannot be imitated. The regulative principles help ordinary devotees rise to the stage of perfect love of Godhead. Pure love of Krishna is the perfection of pure devotion, and pure devotional service is identical with spontaneous devotional service. Important to note these couple of sentences, and that is that regulative principles help ordinary devotees rise to the stage of perfect love of Godhead. Prabhupada gives an example, very simple example. In the light of so many convoluted arguments and discussions about Vidhi Bhakti and Rag Marg, Prabhupada says, the Vidhi Bhakti is like typing when you don't know how to type and you're following the book, and you're looking, and you watch, type like this, type like that, and you practice, but you have to be very careful where you put your fingers. He said the Rag Bhakti is like when you learn everything in the book and your fingers spontaneously go on the keys. So in a similar way, when we follow in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan through our disciplic succession, coming through our Srila Prabhupada, Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and we carefully observed the various programs which he's set out for us as the process through which we develop love of Godhead. Then gradually we develop a spontaneous attraction for them. And the natural propensity that we have to love Krishna is awakened in a very profound and specific way by that process. And that brings one to the platform of Rag Marg. Kurunath Prabhu, does that concur with your understanding? Let the record show that Kurunath Prabhu has agreed. Srivas Pandit Prabhu, concurrence? Anyone else? Okay. Anything to add or subtract?
No.
Okay. Srivas Prabhu? Flawless execution of regulative principles is exhibited in the Vaikuntha planets, but by strictly executing these principles, one can be elevated to the Vaikuntha planets, but spontaneous pure loving service is found in Krishna Aloka alone. So the kind of regulative practice of devotional service that we're doing is developing an attraction for spontaneous love to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Vraja. Mai bhaktir hi bhutanam amritatvaya kalpate jishya mat asin mat sneho bhavatinam madapanaha. His Holiness Hanumat Preshek Swami quoted this verse when he was here. Do you remember? Yeah? It says, devotional service rendered to me by the living beings revives their eternal life. O my dear damsels of Vraja, your affection for me is your good fortune, for it is the only means by which you have obtained my favor. Purport. Pure devotional service is represented in the activities of the residents of Brajabhumi, Vrindavan. During a solar eclipse, the Lord came from Dwarka and met the inhabitants of Vrindavan at Samanta Panchaka. The meeting was intensely painful for the damsels of Brajabhumi because Lord Krishna had apparently left them to reside at Dwarka. But the Lord obligingly acknowledged the pure devotional service of the damsels of Vraja, speaking this verse, 1082:44. So, to continue this point about rendering of regulated devotional service, our practice is serving the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur confirms, in this Chaitanya Chandamrita, yata yata Gaura Padara Vinde, etc. By serving the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Dasya Ras, then one naturally develops spontaneous love for Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan within one's heart. And who can think of another place where a similar statement is made, that by receiving the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, then one will come to see at the end, Sheshe Vrindavan Radhe Sham Pabedar Gaura Kripa Hole. Hey, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says a similar thing, and that is, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then one will come to see Radha Krishna in Vrindavan. And who can think of another bhajan that we sing here sometimes that contains that? And if Avantika was here, she would raise her hand right away. Oh, there she is. Which bhajan that we sometimes sing or have practiced? Yeah. Gaurang Gera Duti Pada. In this particular bhajan, what does it say?
Gaurangara Duti Pada.
Yeah, but in the translation, what do you have to dive into? And if you dive into that place, where do you come out?
If you dive into the ocean of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then you come out with rather love for Krishna.
If you dive, pretty close. If you dive into the ocean of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, meaning the Sankirtan movement, then you'll come out on the shore of Radha and Krishna's pastimes. Very good. Thank you. So this is the means by which we approach Radha Krishna in Vrindavan, through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radha and Krishna combined. So we can't approach Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan separately of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's appeared specifically in Kali Yuga to bestow this gift, that anyone can attain spontaneous love for Sri Radha and Krishna through the process of entering the Sankirtan movement, and especially following the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. They are Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's empowered representatives, who he gave full instruction to. By following their instructions, one can enter into Vrindavan, the mood of Vrindavan. Without doing that, one has no hope of entering into the mood of Vrindavan without the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his Goswamis. The way we do that now is through the process we have. It's perfectly molded for the present age by Srila Prabhupada, who painstakingly, as you'll read when you read the 7th chapter of the Adi Lila, he went to great pains. Many of those pains were criticisms from others when Prabhupada came to America, as he adjusted the process to accommodate all kinds of Western habits, so that everyone could take to the process of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotional service. And people criticized him, saying, oh, you're changing this, you're changing that, you can't make Westerners into devotees, and so forth. But Prabhupada had the complete and comprehensive knowledge of how to present Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message, and the evidence from the Srimad Bhagavatam and elsewhere that proved that his methodology was absolutely correct. And the result is evident. Who else could spread Krishna consciousness all over the world except one who is connected to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Now we'll take any questions or comments or reflections. Yes, Govinda Prabhu.
Maharaj, this question haunted me for quite some time. So we hear that Vrindavanam padam tyaktva padam ekam na gacchati. So Lord Krishna doesn't leave Vrindavan at any time. But he left Vrindavan with a Akrur, and the gopis suffered in separation. So if Lord Krishna was there, then why couldn't gopis see him?
Yes, Hanumat Preshak Swami explained that when he was here, and he explained that in that Vipralamba Bhav, the gopis were seeing Krishna constantly. In fact, this is a great conundrum for those who do not know the science of Krishna consciousness, or very specifically the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that in separation the devotees are even more connected to Krishna than when they're meeting him. And that Krishna was there, present in Vrindavan in his bhava form. Prabhupada explains this in the 10th canto and also in the Krishna book very elaborately, about how when Krishna apparently leaves Vrindavan, he's there in his bhava form and constantly in contact with the devotees in Vrindavan. Yes, Gurunath Prabhu.
There's a very nice book by Shiva Ram Swami called Krishna Sangati, Meetings with Lord Krishna, which pretty much the whole book is dedicated to that question and answering that question in elaborate detail. There's a big, long introduction of about 100 pages that discusses that in very scientifically.
Okay, could you please enumerate what's in those 100 pages? Or at least two of the points?
Krishna has his manifest lila and his unmanifest lila. Actually, there are evidence in Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures that Krishna is actually coming and going from Vrindavan, even during the time that he's left. This is based also on different writings of Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Goswami, and others. And there's footnotes explaining all the writings, and also from Srila Prabhupada's books. But that the gopis are meeting with Krishna in their ecstasy, and then in order to enhance their mood of separation, they're forgetting that they actually met with Krishna, or they're not sure whether they actually met him or whether they were just imagining it. And and then there's writings by Jiva Goswami, I think, that explain that that actually after the pastime of killing Dantavakra was close to Vrindavan, and Krishna went there and actually married the gopis, and there's like all these stories and then the gopis went to Dwarka and met the queens, and that's why the Gopi Chandan comes from that lake where the gopis actually merged there. But anyway, the scientific explanation is that Krishna is always in Vrindavan, the original Krishna, and sometimes he appears not to be there to enhance this mood of separation, to increase the love that's always increasing. And he has his different kinds of expansions, and it's all. I'm not an expert in the explanation, but it's all very thoroughly explained in that book.
Yeah, and the gist is what we've just said, is he's there in the manifestation of it. It's called uppercut, or his bhava manifestation, and which is what Hanumat Prashak Swami had also mentioned. Are you still feeling haunted? If so, you can also go more deeply within the Krishna Sangati, as there he's taken from various scriptures and given a nuance to the points in discussion. To the sadhu in the back row.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the class. And I have a question regarding the devotional service. You talked about pure devotional service and the mixed devotional service.
Yeah.
So, I make offenses, and my devotional service have been on and off. So sometimes I'm plugged. When I come in association, I'm plugged, and then again off. So I was thinking in my mind, and you know how the mind works. It's like even though you're making mistakes, you are making offenses, but you have to take this medicine. There is no other way. But you at the same time mentioned that there are two big offenses. One, the one who is spreading the holy name, and second, who is chanting holy name.
Vilifying one who's spreading
yes.
the holy name. Yes.
Thinking that I'm doing devotional service, but I can do whatever I want to do.
Correct.
But it's kind of my same stage. I feel like I'm doing so many nonsense things, but at the same time in my mind I know there is no other way.
Yeah, so the point there is it's a matter of attitude adjustment. Don't justify what you're doing. If you, Krishna notes this interim stage in the verse that we've quoted many times here, Jata Shara Makatasu Nirvina Sarvakarmas Veda Dukatmakang Kamams Prityagi Parishvare. Next line. Tato bhajeta mam prita shradhalur judanishchaya jushamanam statam kamams dukkho darkams tagarayan. In this verse, 11, 20, 27. Thank you. In this verse, Lord Sri Krishna notes the fact that someone may be at a stage when he or she is practicing devotional service, fully convinced that material life leads to misery, and therefore is really disgusted with the material world, but at the same time can't give it up. Tato bhajetamam prita shraddhalur jidhanishchaya. It said you should go on with determination, the faith that you have, practicing devotional service. And you can repent the fact that you can't do it yet, but don't stop. Don't become so discouraged that you stop the process of devotional service. But very importantly, don't justify your non-ability to practice. In other words, if you take the stance that I'm permanently unqualified, or that it doesn't matter, that I don't even need to try to become advanced because I can't anyway, or because I'm chanting Hare Krishna, it neutralizes the effect of my sins and therefore I don't try for it either. This is not in harmony with the word kariyan, which means you should have some repentance in your heart, but not so much that you give up and become morose and just say, oh, I'm no good. This is more lack of self-esteem than it is a devotional sentiment. So go on with the practice. In the beginning of any discipline, there's always going to be gaps. And continue to practice, Krishna says, and with a happy mind, knowing that as you continue without making excuses, then you'll come to the point where you'll be able to stand on your own 2 feet, and you will be able to practice in nishta, and then ruchi, and then asakti, and then bhava. Does that help? Bhakti
Thank you.
Murmi, where did she go? She had her hand up. That's okay. You take her next. Yes. Kanka.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was teaching, after he left, there was a decline because there was so much imitation of Krishna's activities and the gopis. And then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur rectified this, and really I can see as we're reading through this how important it is to follow the acharyas and the teachings of the Guru, so that we don't get into the imaginary relationships with the gopis or Krishna. And I'm having a senior moment, I can't remember what that's called.
Prakrita Sahaja?
Yeah, Sahaja.
Mm-hmm.
So, also, my experience is that many devotees, they think, oh, I can't follow this or I can't follow that, so I'm not going to do anything. And like what you were just saying, how important it is in any kind of discipline, you have to keep practicing. You keep practicing, just like if you want to be a really good athlete. You might not be very good in the beginning, but you just keep practicing. And eventually, and the thing about devotional service is it's so wonderful. Like you said, you just keep a happy mind. We're so fortunate we have all this happiness around us to influence our mind. So, thank you.
Yes, that's an important warning that after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself was present, then there are a variety of misguided teachers that arose who began perverting the philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they gained followers and developed various sects. And these were exposed especially by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Prabhupada always, in his mood and method, was careful that we didn't concoct things. And this is of course, the mood of Rupa Goswami also teaches us that we should be careful to follow the Shruti Smriti Paranadi Panchachiki Vidimbina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Upatayaiva Kalpate. If your practice of devotional service doesn't follow the Shruti, the Smriti, the Panchachik Vidhi, and the general guidance of our acharyas, then it becomes a disturbance to society. to the rest of the devotional world, it's very disturbing. As we've seen, I mean, even in modern times, people concoct various ways of practicing devotional service, and then it goes on. Of course, it seems to be the way of the world. In any era, there's going to be various schisms. So one has to, for that reason, also be very careful to study the Shastra. Guru Sadhu Shastra. You have to constantly triangulate and understand very clearly what is Siddhanta. Siddhanta bole chitana kara alash, iha hoite Krishna lagi sudrid manosh. This means, by Kaviraj Goswami, one shouldn't be lazy. And this is one of the messages of Keshav Bharati Maharaj. Don't be lazy and just assume that, oh, I'm in ISKCON, I'm initiated, therefore I'm good. You know, it's not a rubber stamp. You have to actually understand yourself. Therefore, he says, Siddhanta Bulya Chitanakara Alash. Don't be hesitant to discuss in detail the Siddhanta. Siddhanta means not just what something is, but also what it isn't. It's a very precise understanding. And to come to that understanding, one has to hear the Shastra and discuss it very clearly. He says, Iha hoite Krishna lagit sudrud manosh. Because I've discussed thoroughly, carefully, I've studied the Shastra, Dridhan Manosh. My mind is Dridha. Like this lady who came the other night, she was some sort of a prophet who came in here with her babushka. She came in and she told, you know, she looked at all the devotees. She said, you are Dridhavrata. She said, I've been to other temples, I don't see anything, but here I find Dridhavrata. And that's what one becomes if one studies the Shastra and knows what is the Siddhanta. Then you know for yourself. So Kaviraj Goswami goes on to say, because I've studied Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the philosophy, what he is, and what isn't the philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, therefore I'm very determined in my devotional service. Otherwise you become whimsical, willy-nilly, and you can fall for any kind of idea about what is devotional service. People concoct things all the time. We should also, yes, Karanath Prabhu.
Well, I don't want to stop you until you've reached a point where I...
No, please stop me. Yeah, they'll bring you the mic.
I wanted to raise a new question when Srila Prabhupada was talking about how Vidha or Vidhi Bhakti is mixed or is not Shuddha Bhakti, it's not pure, that sometimes the ecstasies in Shuddha Bhakti violate the Vidhas or encourage the devotee to violate a Vidha, but this is purely spiritual and it shouldn't be imitated. And it brought to mind that I've heard even among Prabhupada's disciples sometimes discussion or controversy about whether or not we're supposed to be doing something other than simply chanting our rounds, following the principles, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, worshiping the deities, going out and distributing the books, doing everything that Srila Prabhupada taught us to do, or do we have to add something to make sure that we're going to approach this Shuddha Bhakti platform, because Vidhi Bhakti is somehow inferior, and is there something, like the way we chant our rounds, are we supposed to try to meditate on something other than just hearing the rounds? And I've heard devotees, like there's even one disciple of Srila Prabhupada who wrote some elaborate book on Raganuga Bhakti. I haven't read his book, but I've heard him criticize other devotees that say that if you just keep practicing the way we practice in ISKCON, that we'll get there.
So this question is answered succinctly, which is when there's an answer, it's usually by the principle of Occam's razor, simple and direct. And this answer is given by Srila Prabhupada by way of paraphrasing his spiritual master, which comes in this already succinct book about the process of Raganuga Bhakti. How you get to Raganuga Bhakti is described in this book, step by step, because this book ends with Krishnasya Chaya Pranati, goes on to talk about Radha Kund and the highest ecstasy of following the pastimes of Lord Krishna throughout the day and so forth. So here in text number 8, we hear Tanama Rupa Charitari Sukirtananu Smrityo Kramena Rasana Manasinyoja Tishtam Vraje Tananuragi Jananugami Kalam Nayed Akilam Ityupadesha Saram. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Vraja, Goloka Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. Purport. Since the mind may be one's enemy or one's friend, one has to train the mind to become his friend. The Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for training the mind to be always engaged in Krishna's business. The mind contains hundreds and thousands of impressions, not only of this life, but also of many, many lives in the past. These impressions sometimes come in contact with one another and produce contradictory pictures. In this way, the mind's function can be dangerous for a conditioned soul. Students of psychology are aware of the mind's various psychological changes. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said, Yang vapi smanan bhavam tajatyanti kalevaram tam tam evaite konteya sadatad bhava bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. At the time of death, the mind and intelligence of a living being, of a living entity, create the subtle form of a certain type of body for the next life. If the mind suddenly thinks of something not very congenial, one has to take a corresponding birth in the next life. On the other hand, if one can think of Krishna at the time of death, he can transfer to the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. This process of transmigration is very subtle. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami advises devotees to train their minds in order that they will be unable to remember anything other than Krishna. Similarly, the tongue should be trained to speak only of Sri Krishna and to taste only Krishna Prasadam. Srila Rupa Goswami further advises Tishtan Vraje. One should live in Vrindavan or any part of Rajabhumi. Rajabhumi, or the land of Vrindavan, is supposed to be 84 kroshas in area. 1 krosha equals 2 square miles. When one makes Vrindavan his residence, he should take shelter of an advanced devotee there. In this way, one should always think of Krishna and his pastimes. This is further elucidated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Krishnam smaram janam jasya preshnam nija samihitam tat tat kata ratash chasau kuryat vasam vrajesada. Did you have to learn that on your Bhakti Shastri? No. A devotee should always reside in the transcendental realm of Vraja and always engage in Krishnam smaran janam chasya preshnam, the remembrance of Sri Krishna and his beloved associates. By following in the footsteps of such associates and by entering under their eternal guidance, one can acquire an intense desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Again, Srila Rupa Goswami states in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Seva sadhaka rupena siddha rupena chatrahi tadbhava lipsina karya vraja lokanu sarata. In the transcendental realm of Vraja, Vrajadam, one should serve the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna with a feeling similar to that of his associates, and one should place himself under the direct guidance of a particular associate of Krishna and should follow in his footsteps. This method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana, spiritual practices, executed well in the stage of bondage, and in the stage of sadhya, God realization, when one is a siddha purusha, or a spiritually perfect soul. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has commented as follows on this verse. One who has not yet developed interest in Krishna consciousness should give up all material motives and train his mind by following the progressive regulative principles, namely chanting and remembering Krishna and his name, form, quality, pastimes, and so forth. In this way, after developing a taste for such things, one should try to live in Vrindavan and pass his time constantly remembering Krishna's name, fame, pastimes, and qualities under the direction and protection of an expert devotee. This is the sum and substance of all instruction regarding the cultivation of devotional service. In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This stage is called Shravana Dasha, the stage of hearing. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes, one can attain to the stage of acceptance called Varnadasha. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to hearing of Krishna Katha. When one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smaranavasta. Smaranavasta, the stage of remembering. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance are the 5 items of progressive Krishna smarana. At first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals, but later remembrance proceeds uninterrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called meditation. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmriti. By uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters the stage of samadhi or spiritual trance. After smarana dasha or samadhi has fully developed, the soul comes to understand his original constitutional position. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. That is called sampati dasha, the perfection of life. Chaitanya Charitamrita advises those who are neophytes to give up all kinds of motivated desires and simply engage in the regulative devotional service of the Lord according to the directions of Scripture. In this way, a neophyte can gradually develop attachment for Krishna's name, fame, form, qualities, and so forth. When one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna even without following the regulative principles. This stage is called Raga Bhakti, or devotional service and spontaneous love. At that stage, the devotee can follow in the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of Krishna Vrindavan. This is called the Raga Anuga Bhakti. Raga Anuga Bhakti, or spontaneous devotional service, can be executed in the Shanta Ras when one aspires to be like Krishna's cows, or the stick or flute in the hand of Krishna, or in the flowers around Krishna's neck. In the Dasya Ras, one follows in the footsteps of servants like Chitrak, Patrak, or Raktak. In the friendly Sakya Ras, one can become a friend like Baladev, Sridhama, or Sudhama. In the Vatsalya Ras, characterized by parental affection, one can become like Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. And in Madhurya Rasa, characterized by conjugal love, one can become like Srimati Radharani or her lady friends such as Lalita, and her serving maids, Manjaris, such as Rupa and Rati. This is the essence of all instruction in the matter of devotional service. You'll notice that the primary focus is on intensified hearing and regular hearing and following the regulative principles. So there's a way in which when one follows the footsteps of the Goswamis, given through our founder Acharya, in organizing one's life around the principle of hearing and chanting throughout the day, then one naturally develops spontaneous attraction for Krishna. And all of that is preceded by, continued by, and reaches its culmination by the process of hearing and chanting in the association of devotees. Especially the Shastras that have been given to us, like the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion. All these will give us perfect guidance. Yes?
So does that mean that when our taste becomes strong enough, we can actually meditate so intensely that we can actually become a follower of Raktaka or Nanda Maharaj, or one of these? I mean, we can actually perceive the pastimes of Goloka Vrindavan and actually live there and get instructions from Krishna's associates there?
Yes, but one has to be very diligent, especially to understand the various stages of devotional service. For instance, Anartha Nivritti is marked by very particular obstacles to Nishta. In the Anartha Nivritti stage, there is Laya, Nishepa, Sampati, and Rasasava. There are 5 different obstacles mentioned. One is that one falls asleep while chanting or hearing, or feels sleepy anyway. The other is one that gets distracted. The other is that one's neither sleepy and there's no distraction, but one just doesn't care. Another is that one has the sense objects are attracted to their objects, and therefore one gets drawn away from devotional service. And the fourth one is that there's innate qualities like greed or lust or anger that interrupt one's process of devotional service. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Rupa Goswami describe how one has to go through anartha nivritti in order to come to the stage of nishta, and only when passing that stage of nishta, or complete steadiness in devotional service, when all of those other obstacles are not present, one enters into ruchi, and then one starts to perceive that there's a particular way that one's attracted to serving Krishna in the spiritual world. And Prabhupada mentions this in the Adi Lila, fourth chapter, 34th verse, the second to last paragraph, where he talks about how one will notice, if we could see that, possible, one will notice that as one goes on hearing and chanting about Krishna, one's natural proclivity to think of Krishna, worship Krishna in a specific way will be naturally awakened. So Prabhupada, in all of his teachings, referred us to the ways in which we advance through hearing and chanting. And we have, one might argue, a complete course of that one can take advantage of. Of course, if one doesn't take advantage of it, then that's another thing. Because, who can say they've fully taken advantage of the Srimad Bhagavatam? I mean, that's something, if you try your hardest in your current situation of life to take full advantage of hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll find that you'll rearrange your life in many different ways around that principle of hearing, which Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur emphasizes the gateway to Vraja. And Rupa Goswami himself, here he's saying that by engaging in this most essential process, that one will come to the stage of the perfect stage of loving God. Yes, so the answer is given in this verse, that Tanama Rupa Charitari Sukirtananu Smrityo Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyoja Tishtan Vraje. You'll be situated in Vraja. Tananugami. Then you'll be able to follow in the footsteps. But you can't do it artificially. If you try to do it before you have the wherewithal to sit and hear properly, how are you going to do that? Because it's precipitated by hearing in a certain way, and you have to be attracted to it. That's the sign that you're actually going in a certain direction, is that you're really attracted to hearing. It's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the verse, many verses by Kapila Dev, the famous one, Satam prasangam amavirya samvido bhavanti hrit karna rasayana kata taj joshanad ashu pavargavartmani shradaratir bhaktir anukramishati. This is anukramishati, step by step. How does it start? And how does one end up going from one stage of advanced bhakti to the next? That's by hearing in the association of devotees. And there are numerous other verses. Kapila Dev also says, Madguna Shruti Matrena Mai Sarvugahashaye Manogatir Avichnina Yata Gangam Basambudao Lakshanam Bhakti Yogasya Nugunasya Hudaritam Ahaituki Avyavahita Ya Bhakti Purushotame. The perfection of devotional service above the modes of material nature comes when one's mind is fully attracted to hearing about Krishna. It's drawn away. So you can't get there by skipping over anything. You certainly can't get there by not following the regulative principles, which wasn't what you were suggesting, someone said, but Kanka brought up the Prakrita Sahajas, who say that they're following Krishna even before they go through anartha nivritti. They're still doing that. But the sign that one is actually attached to Krishna, following Krishna properly, is through attentive hearing. So the essence of all advice is given here, that arrange your life in such a way that you can constantly be in touch with Krishna by hearing about him. And by that hearing process, one naturally progresses from one stage to the next. The last point from Kanka, because somebody's going to come out here and really, with a cane.
Thank you, Maharaj. Just real quick, in the purports we were talking about the mind, how strong the mind is, and And Shraddha is very important, the faith that all of what you just said, we will progress, and then Krishna's grace will give us those special moments when we start to realize more and more. So,
yes, there's a really important point. That is the actual progression that's given by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur and Rupa Goswami, describing the progression of devotional service. Adau Shraddha Tata Sadhusanga Bhajana Kriya. This is known as the thickening of faith. And as we know from our study of Brahma Samhita, Yadrishi Shraddha Siddhir Bhavati Tadrishi. As your faith thickens, so does your perfection in devotional service. And how does one come to that stage? It's mentioned right there in the next verse. What is the verse? By theistic conduct, perseverance, practice. What is it? Pramanes tat sadachares tarabhyasir nirantaram borayana mana. No, wait. Pramanes tat sadachares tarabhyasir nirantaram borayana manatmanam bhaktim apyutamam labet. You attain the highest bhakti. How? By theistic conduct, perseverance in practice, and by scriptural reference. Following the scriptures indicates in the purport. Does Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? You have to begin with the Vidhi Bhakti, especially hearing, regulating the senses in the process of following the Acharya, and then gradually you come to that stage. I mean, it's a very deep topic, and we can do a class or a seminar specifically on the ways in which, by following the tenets of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings through the portal that is coming through ISKCON, one gets the full advantage of the teachings of the Goswamis, and by following the particular tenets that we've been given, there's enough so that one can develop. Not just enough, there's more than enough that one can develop this Raga Bhakti and advance. And when there's more instructions needed, one will be attracted to them. We don't even see them now. If you go into the sections of the Chaitanya Charitamrita that very elaborately describe the beauty and opulence of Krishna and so forth, I may be thinking about the World Cup. That's, how are you going to advance to the next stage if you're reading about this, but your mind is on the World Cup? I mean, is that possible that could even happen? So when one's beyond World Cup consciousness, and into it's a different world, Ruchi. The mind is inextricably pulled to the topics of Krishna and so forth. This is not an artificial program, but something that's done painstakingly through the process of anartha-nivritti, intensive practice in the association of devotees. And there's no better way to do that than to follow the Acharya. And if you follow an Acharya, even if you're inept, Yasya Devi para bhaktir yata Devi tatagaro tasyaite katita hyarta prakashanti mahatmana, then at least you'll become a kripa siddhi by following the footsteps of the authorized Acharya, and you'll come to the perfect stage by the mercy of the devotees. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai, Sri Sanatan Goswami ki jai, Sri Bhadra Purnima ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Sri Radhashtami ki jai, Sri Vyasa Puja continuation throughout the year ki jai, His Holiness Keshava Bharti Maharaj ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, Bo, Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo. Pranayama, come on. Vanchakalpadurvascha kripasinabhevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. That's your Marman. Natari Marman. Natari Marman. Natari Marman. Hey, Natari Marman. Natari Marman. Natari Marman. Natari Marman.